What advice would you give, a young entrepreneur who wants to start up a business now? How do you start?
Right, first of all, the internet is at your disposal. There's a couple of tips I'd give every young entrepreneur starting now, and it's this. First of all, don't think you've got to be, a multimillionaire overnight. Start small. I always see chip, chip, chip away, because actually these small little movements all the way make a massive difference at the end. We've seen from what Dave Brailsford has done with the Olympic cycling team, and how we've made them world beaters. What he says is small marginal gains, lots of them. And it's the same with young entrepreneurs. So focus on doing little things well. The other two things I would say to young entrepreneurs is this: focus on your product and the customer. You always have to be thinking like a customer. Stop thinking about you and what you want to share with the world. Start thinking about how the customer might want you. So you've got to think about it the other way around. And if you start small, concentrate on the customer, think about your product. They're the three things I'd start with.
Money has a different meaning for many people. What does money mean to you?
Money actually means very little. All money is pieces of paper with pictures of dead people on the back. So money per se is rubbish. But what money is a facilitator. It's an enabler. It enables you to do the things that you should be doing. Nobody should be living their life, getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, feeding the dog, going to bed, getting up. Nobody should live that life just in order to earn a paycheck. People should be living the life that inspires them, and all money is the facilitation of that life of freedom. So money itself, rubbish, nothing. It's the facilitator.
Well, what do you think your turning points were when you were a kid? I mean, what was your life like when you were growing up as a woman in the West End, in the East End?
I wasn't really aware of turning points. I think there were two big things that happened to me. I was a very lonely, isolated child, and one day an uncle gave me a £5 note, and that was, in retrospect, one of the big turning points. The second big turning point was being chucked out of school. I left school at 16 by mutual consent. I didn't like them and they didn't like me, so we agreed I wouldn't bother. So I went out and worked in a library, and I think that was a big jolt and a wake-up call for me, because I realised if I didn't do something, I'd be in the gutter forever.
Were there any people in particular that inspired you then?
Not inspired. Inspiration for me came much later, but there were two people that made me feel that wanting to be different was okay, and that was my Auntie Em and my Uncle Dennis. So they were family members, not connected to each other, but they both had a sense of abundance, even though they were poor and living in the East End. My uncle was a road sweeper, for example, but they gave very freely of what they had. Their money came and went, and they gave it away, and they gave of their time, and they gave of their love, and it was the first real expression of abundance that I had from people. So two very great people.